there's still a hell of a lot of people that I end up working with that say, do you know, I don't know who I am anymore. I've spent so much of the last 20 years being the best employee that I can be, being the best manager that I can be, being the best partner that I can be, being the best parent that I can be, that I actually don't know what makes me happy anymore. I don't know what makes me tick.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Sleep Like a Boss podcast. I'm Anika Carroll, your host, and I have a super fun guest for you today, Yesim Nicholson. And Yesim is a career coach, an international career coach, an author, and a podcast host. And Yesim, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. We met, I think, a couple of months ago. Actually found out there's quite a few parallels or connection points in our lives. And it's so fun to have you on the show because you are a career coach. You work with people who are trying to figure out what to do with their lives. You interview people on your podcast, your Big Career Move podcast, on people who have completely changed their careers. And I think there is so many people out there who, and that's why I wanted to have you on. And I have that story myself, but who are like, what am I doing? I'm just not satisfied with where I am right now in my life. And we used to call it midlife crisis. I haven't heard that much of that word lately, but I think it kind of there comes a point for a lot of people where it's like, is this what I still want to do or not? And you just actually also, and it's in the background, you just published this wonderful book, Ready to Quit Your Job. And there's a part in there even on sleep, and we're going to go into all this, but I see this as such a big driver for people's dissatisfaction. Work can be such a big driver for draining your motivation, your energy, getting you into burnout, messing with your sleep, all of the above, affecting your health. And I really am so glad to have you today so we can dissect this whole thing a little.
Yes.
and dive in there. So just maybe to start, what do you think? What makes, and we used to can say people, but maybe you can talk about women specifically, what you've seen with your clients or yourself. What do you think makes us unhappy in our jobs? Is there certain drivers that really make us want to just shut the door, walk out, and just leave it behind?
Yeah, this is a really good question. And don't you hate when people reply, it depends on the person? But genuinely, it's such a personal thing, which is probably why I love what I do so much, because it is really, I love getting to know the person that is wanting to change their career and sort of peel back the layers and find out what is motivating them, what fears are they holding, what beliefs are they holding on to that aren't serving them anymore. So it really does vary. And I think certainly a lot of people end up in jobs by accident. It's not something that they've been particularly intentional about. I mean, I've lost count of the number of people that say to me, I don't know really how I've ended up in this job. And obviously our education has a huge part to play in the career that we end up having. So things that we were good at school that perhaps people noticed we were good at and then try to steer us in a particular direction, you know, always for with good intentions, right? Or maybe nobody noticed anything that we were good at school, which is equally, like, I don't know, it can be really confusing if you really just have no idea what you're good at, and then you're sort of scrambling around trying to find something that you might be good at. So I think that's often how people end up in jobs where they're like, gosh, it's not motivating me anymore. I'm not finding the joy in it anymore, or I'm just surrounded by the wrong type of people, or it might be that you've ended up working for an organization that doesn't share the same vision as you. And so it's really hard to get behind a vision if it's not aligned with your own values. So yes, so that's my very long way of saying it can be a real myriad of reasons that we end up in jobs that we just don't enjoy.
Yeah, and I think it can be because I was in a situation like that just for a short part of my career, but I was, and it can be scary. I find it's like you have this financial responsibility, right? You're at home, you might be the main breadwinner. Like in my case, I was for a while. I was like, there's no way I cannot just walk out of the door like this, or at least that's what I was saying. But like in that moment, that's what it felt like, right?
Sure.
And then it's also sometimes a bit of a question that when I read the book that it was really interesting. There were things coming up where I was like, oh, because you have these awesome questions that you guide people through in the book, in the chapters to really reflect. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is really interesting because it kind of opens your horizon a little to the thing, how did I even get here? And B, just because I've accumulated expertise in this now, maybe for decades, doesn't necessarily mean that a job has to be the exact same job that I have been doing, right?
Yeah, you're touching on something that is really, really common. And I hear a lot that people say, but Yesim, I've spent the last 20 years of my life dedicating myself to this career and becoming the best lawyer I can possibly be, or the best accountant, or the best architect, or the best whatever journalist. How can I now turn my back on something that I've worked so hard in and I've accumulated so much knowledge and expertise in? And the answer to that is that you take all of that with you, even if you end up doing something completely different. All those experiences that you've collected over the last 20 or 10 or 30, however many years, they all come with you. They've all shaped you in some way. And all the experiences and things that you've learned along the way, you'll still be able to use in whatever you end up doing. And you'll bring a very unique take and a very unique um, uh, just a uniqueness to that role that somebody else wouldn't bring. So I love reminding people that this is just it's such an asset, all this experience, and you're not throwing it away. And I think one of the ladies that I interviewed for my podcast, she said, I liken it to a pair of shoes. I bought the shoes 8 years ago. They were beautiful. They fit me perfectly. They helped me win the race, etc. And then after a while, the shoes are worn out and they just are not serving their purpose anymore. They were perfect for what I needed them to do. And now they're worn out and I'm ready for a new pair of shoes. And it's exactly the same.
Absolutely, and it's an amazing analogy. And maybe I can quote you from the book. There's very early on in the book, you say, when I started working with people who wanted to make a career change, I held a perhaps slightly naive assumption that everybody I worked with would indeed end up changing their career path. I was wrong. And looking at the shoes, right? It doesn't mean that we have to necessarily go from runners to stilettos. Like I don't have to go from an architect to a beekeeper kind of extreme, right?
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about what job changing, career changing might look like? And maybe you have some examples of people who've done this and what might not be the big leap to so to say, because it's maybe not necessary or maybe not wanted or not possible at that point.
Yeah, totally. First of all, that's the first time somebody's read a bit of my book out to me, which is quite a weird experience.
Okay.
So thanks for that. That was, yeah, really quite strange. I'm like, oh, I read that. Yes. Yes. So to go back to what you just read out, I did expect when I started doing this that everybody would make this massive change. And what I've realized over time and having worked with lots and lots of people now is that sometimes in extreme cases, we blame our job for our unhappiness.
Mhm.
It's a really convenient scapegoat. And when I would start working with people, so I always say that there are 4 possible outcomes of us working together, and I mentioned this in the book as well, is that you're either going to be a remainer, a tweaker, a toe dipper, or a leaper. And I'll just very, very briefly explain what they all are. So a remainer is somebody that does the reflection work, you know, goes through the process of really just looking at where they're at and where their satisfaction is actually, or dissatisfaction is actually stemming from, and decides after that some reflection that actually they are in the right job, they're surrounded by the right people, they are working for the right organization. It's actually what they're doing is ticking quite a lot of the boxes that are really important to them, like their values, and they just start to approach their work with a different mindset, with maybe a bit more gratitude, with a bit more contentment that actually they are doing what they're meant to be doing. So that's the remainer. The tweaker is somebody that says, well, you know, I'm in the right organization, I'm doing the right kind of job, you know, the people, blah, 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 like it's ticking most of my boxes, but I've just realized that I just need a little bit more flexibility. So if I could work from home an extra day a week, or if I could go into the office an extra day a week, or take on a little bit more responsibility or less responsibility, or just slightly tweak the kinds of projects that I'm getting involved in, that you know, there might be projects that are more exciting to me within my organization that are sort of within what I could be doing. So that's the tweaker. The toe dipper is somebody that thinks or comes to the conclusion that they're okay where they are right now. It's okay, but they have one eye somewhere else. So they start dipping their toe in, you know, perhaps starting a little side hustle, or, you know, starting to develop some skills that they'd really like to incorporate into their new career. So start going on evening courses or weekend courses or whatever it might be, and just really start exploring or perhaps volunteering in an area that interests them. So really just, you know, as the name suggests, dipping their toes in different areas that they think they might want to step into at some point. And then the leaper, well, the name says it all. It's the person that, having done all the reflection, decides that actually the only option for them is to take that big leap into the unknown.
I think this is so helpful because it really gets you, and the book guides you through it so nicely too, to actually sit and reflect about where you're at, I think, right? And I think that's where your work with clients is super helpful too. This, yes, I know I'm unhappy, but why do I not change, right? Like, why is it so hard for people to just make that change?
Yeah. And I guess it's working out where the change needs to occur. Is it that I need to take a massive or make a massive career change, or is it something as, I want to say simple, but we all know it's not, hence why you do what you do. But it might be something as simple as, in inverted commas, as getting more sleep, because as you and I, you know, obviously you know much better than I do even, that if you've had a good night's sleep, the world is a much better place. You can deal with little stresses much more easily. The annoying boss is slightly less annoying. The, you know, commute to work can be enjoyable. And we make better choices and we make better decisions when we've had a good night's sleep, and we have a completely different approach to life. So it is, you know, sometimes it is just looking at, that's why in my book I explore lots of areas that initially you might think, why the hell is she talking about these things? What's that got to do with a career? But you have to look at a career as a holistic thing. It's not a standalone thing. Our career affects pretty much every single area of our life. It affects our relationships, our social life, our, you know, our income and what we can do with that income, how much free time we have, how, you know, our relationships with our loved ones. It affects every aspect of our life. So I couldn't really write a book that doesn't look at all of those different things. It would be remiss of me, I would say.
Yeah, and I think this like if I look at it from my health perspective, right? It's this, like, you got this one body, And you have to take care of it. And it is your ticket to success. Like if you look at all the really successful people in the world, they understand that looking after themselves, being their body, being their mind, right? It's all that. Yes, they do that. And does it take away time from their day to do their job? Because everybody's always like, I don't have time for this. Like, let me quickly finish that presentation at 11 p.m. Let me quickly write those emails to everybody tomorrow. Let me do over the long run. Yes, is there here and there emergency? Yes, but over the long run, it's just going to backfire. And then you might also just get more frustrated at work, right? You might just be more annoyed by that manager you don't like, your boss, by that maybe you have people you need to manage who are not top notch. Maybe there's somebody who's mediocre where you have to do like, and I'm at my HR background, that's what we were doing a lot, right? Like manage, try to improve low performers. Also, right? If you're not emotionally stable because you're sleep scrappy, you're gonna freak out at all these people and everything's just gonna set you off, right? And you're gonna eventually get into this loop of, why is she reacting like that? This is not very professional. Like it can even backfire for yourself, right? And I think I saw this, I think maybe it was on Amazon when I got your book. There was like one little quote that said, this book helps you like not react, not have quitting your job be a knee-jerk reaction. And I'm like, yeah, this is it. This knee-jerk, take a step back and reflect before you just say, okay, I'm leaving. And I think if we're not well balanced, that can be something that we do very quickly, that we do something impulsive instead of actually assessing the situation and making a plan, right? Like I'm all about and is that I was just looking back when I was thinking about changing my job and what I was doing, and I don't know if you see that with clients. I would be going on job search portals and I would look for jobs, and what would I put in what I was doing, like a senior HR manager, HR director, what could I do? And then I was reading the job descriptions, and it was so interesting because some of them were like, yeah, because the environment was the environment that I liked. Like, and manufacturing is really my thing, supply chain, those kinds of things. But then I was like, you know what? That is the same thing I've been doing for 15 years. And I can already tick, yes, in my mind, I can already tick the boxes because yes, do I fulfill the requirements of the position? Yes, I do. But is that really what I want to do? And if I had you like back in the day, it would have been so helpful because I think that's what, I don't know, maybe it's not, but that's what I did. I was just looking for a different job, but it was the same job.
Yeah. And actually, just because you can do something doesn't automatically mean that you should.
Yes.
Just because I am able to work with Excel doesn't mean I enjoy doing it. Doesn't mean I want to do it day in, day out.
Absolutely. And I think the question of, the 4 categories that you were describing, right? The remainer, the tweaker, the toe dipper, and the leap. Where do I really fit? I think that is so valuable, right? Is it the company values that don't align? And I think that burns you out. If you go in an environment that just doesn't work for you, it's gonna kill you. Is it just are my skills not employed properly? Can I do more than I'm currently doing, right? Am I like bored to death here? And do I not see potential to change? Or like there's so much, or do I really, like some people have that amazing idea that I think the world needs to know about and I just can't. My company is just not the company to bring it to the forefront with, right?
Totally. And we all need a challenge to an extent. We don't want to be challenged to the point of being stressed every day, but we all need that slight challenge in what we do because it does become boring otherwise. And I mean, I think most people would say, I'm okay with boring, but actually you're not. Boredom is the worst thing if you're not being stimulated in any way, that can, I think people underestimate how bad boredom is for you. You know, if you're really going into an environment every day where you're just not being challenged, you're not being stimulated, over time, that, I mean, it's not actually going to kill, well, it might eventually kill you if it's affecting your health or whatever, but it's going to have a really, really detrimental effect on you and your mental well-being, and probably your physical well-being as well. So I always say to people, you know, be careful what you wish for. You really don't want a boring job. There's really nothing, not that there's nothing worse, but it's not a great place to be.
No, and I think it was so kind of assuring and calming, like also when you read the book, that that you're somebody as a career coach that people can approach to basically assess where they are. It doesn't mean like we don't need to necessarily hire a career coach to spice up our resume, just really figure our strength and then spice up our resume and practice the job interview kind of thing, right? That's sometimes I think also what people think what career coaches are there for, but it's really this figuring out. Well, I'll have you explain it because you're going to explain it better than me.
It is. Well, it is about figuring out. So a lot of people that I work with tend to be middle-aged, sort of 40s and 50s. Doesn't mean I don't work with people not in that age group, but that tends to be where people have achieved a certain amount of success. You know, they've got the house they wanted, they've got the wife, husband, family, dog, whatever it is that they expected to have by this point in their life. And then sometimes it's the first time that they really just stop and analyze where they are. And COVID was like this massive, great big stop that was enforced on all of us, where we just had to stop and we had to analyze. So I think COVID was definitely the catalyst for a lot of people taking the plunge, that going into something that they'd been considering for a while. So we do stop and we analyze where we are, but it's really difficult to do that in isolation by ourselves. And just having somebody who is not emotionally involved with you, they're not really emotionally involved in whatever outcome, in whatever decision you make, it's not going to affect them. So they're completely neutral to the situation. They want the best for you, for sure, but they're going to ask you all the right, slightly challenging question, but they're going to listen to you without judgment, without their own agenda. They're just going to ask the right questions to get for you to come to your own conclusion, and really just have that time for self-reflection, which most of us don't make the time for. We're just going through the motions of, you know, get up, go to work, eat, Netflix, go to bed, repeat, that we're not very good at carving out time to really just take stock of where we are. It's becoming more and more. I think people are becoming more aware, but there's still a hell of a lot of people that I end up working with that say, you know, I don't know who I am anymore. I've spent so much of the last 20 years being the best employee that I can be, being the best manager that I can be, being the best partner that I can be, being the best parent that I can be, that I actually don't know what makes me happy anymore. I don't know what makes me tick. I was having a conversation yesterday, and this lady was like, I'm mid-50s and I don't know, I really just don't know who I am anymore. So it's this beautiful opportunity to just say, okay, well, let's take that. That's like, this is awesome that you're actually acknowledging the fact that you need to do something about this, or you want to do something about this. Let's have some fun with it. Okay, let's rediscover who you are. And I hope the book it's like a teaser for people to start that process. Yeah, but that's, you know, if people need more work on that, or they feel like they need to do a bit more work on that, that's when I come in with the one-to-one and the group coaching.
Yes, and I just, maybe from my HR experience and somebody who was coaching managers in the organization, coaching employees, you can, yes, you can always go to those people in your organization, and you might have a mentor and in the organization, or you might have your HR that you have a good relationship with. And I'm going to put my old HR hat back on, we also have an agenda. And we know what positions we have and don't have, and where we see your potential in the organization. And that might not always, I hope there's candid conversations about that, but there might not be. And you might not necessarily agree with that. So, and when I was in HR, I would have never considered that back in the day. Today, I know the benefit of coaching, and of coaching outside of an organizational framework. So having somebody outside who really, like you said, yes, you want your client to be successful on their journey, but you are not tied to the end game of, oh, I need to fill that marketing manager position in 90 days, or this person has this as their next career step in their development plan, so this is where we're going to put them in. You do not have any of that. So you can just help the person figure their way, which is so
Which
nice.
is
And
really
then they
fun.
can make that, yes, and they can make that decision of if they want to go back to the organization and say, guys, I've thought about it. This is what I would like. Where are the possibilities? And if there's none, this is the potential consequence. And let's talk. Or if that is already, we're far beyond that, and the person says, okay, you know what, I made the decision. I'm going. But it's really, really a great, I think, investment if you're unhappy to, yes, really consider looking for somebody who can do this outside of the environment that you're currently in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So with people who are, if I'm somebody and I'm like, oh my God, like I get headaches, I get upset stomach already when I have to go there in the morning. It's where I'm just not motivated. I come home and I'm just blah, and I just don't feel it right now, but I have no clue what to do. Where do I even start? What would you recommend?
Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, read my book,
Yes.
obviously.
Yes, do that.
Well, I think it is just taking the time out. And, sometimes when I tell people to take time out, they're like, Yesim, I love that you're suggesting that, but I don't have time to brush my teeth some days. So please don't tell me to take time out. But at the end of the day, we've all got 24 hours in a day. And whether it feels like it or not, it's a choice how we spend those 24 hours. We might not like the consequence of whatever decision we're making, but we are making decisions every day, all day, about how to spend our time. So I think it can start with something as little as spending, I don't know, 5 minutes a day. If you've got a really busy work day, take 5 minutes out and just walk around the block and just clear your head and start thinking about, okay, what are the things that, I mean, just do some basic self-reflection. What are the things that I really enjoyed so far today? What are the things that have wound me up? One thing that I really love to get people to do, because it gives you such a great insight into the sort of work you should be doing, is at the end of each day, just keep a diary of the things that happened that day, the activities and things that happened to you that really just lit you up. What did you spend your time doing today? Was it a particular conversation with somebody at the water cooler? Was it doing a presentation? Was it preparing that Excel spreadsheet? Was it, I don't know, listening to, was there something on the radio on the way to work that really just captured your imagination and got you really interested in something? So it's really just noticing those things that don't seem important but are absolutely vital, because they're giving us clues all the time as to how we should be spending our time. If you found things that do interest you and do excite you, then let's find ways to incorporate more of those in your day. And on the other hand, what are the things that the activities and maybe people that drain you of energy? So, who are the people in your life when you spend time with them where you come away feeling, really exhausted? We all have those people. And who are the people that you come away and you feel like you've been, charged, like you just feel revitalized and energized. So it's really just becoming hyper aware of all these little things that we're experiencing in our day-to-day life. And I know I'm making it sound really oversimplistic, but it really is that simple to an extent. It's just do more of the stuff that you enjoy, less of the stuff that drains you. But the first step is obviously becoming aware of those. So just keeping a diary is a really great way to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. And I think and the other thing I think is really this, once you have it on paper and you see this recurring thing, because it might be simple, like it's not difficult, but it's still hard in a way because it's change, right? Like we still gotta do it, and there's gonna be potentially, not for everybody, but potentially a lot of resistance from yourself not wanting to do it because your body's just like, oh no, I don't know this. I'm not comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally that, because our brain is designed to keep us safe. That's its number one job. So if you're doing stuff that you perceive not to be safe, then it's going to send alarm bells and it's going to stop you from doing those. So, but it's okay. You're not being chased by a lion. You're probably not going to die if you try to do something that's slightly outside of your comfort zone. It might be refreshing. You might get a new perspective on things. Might just pull you in the direction that you actually should be going in.
Just take that first little leap, right? It's like you jump and the net will, that's always my thing. You jump and the net will appear. It will.
Yes.
It will. So tell us a little bit about where people can find you.
Wow. So I'm easy to find because I think, as far as I know, I'm the only Yesim Nicholson in the world. So if you type up my name, it'll come up with my website, it'll come up with my YouTube, it'll come up with my podcast. But my website is yescareercoaching.com. I'm on Instagram, and probably LinkedIn is the place that I'm most active. Um, yeah, and check out my podcast. It's called Your Big Career Move, and the book's called Ready to Quit Your Job? Question mark.
Question mark. That's the thing. It's a
Yeah, big
question mark,
question mark.
right?
Yes.
And we'll drop all the links in the show notes for sure. And you also have a very cool gift that you were going to share.
Oh yeah. So obviously a lot of people that approach me like, oh, I really want to change careers, but I don't really know what to do. And they just have all these, questions going around in their head. So I thought actually it would be really useful to have some questions to ask yourself that can get you started on this journey of self-reflection and working out where you want to be. So I designed 10 questions. Some of them are a little bit left field, a little bit unusual perhaps. But yeah, if you go on my website, it's under the free resources bit, and it's 10 questions to ask yourself if you want to just get a little bit unstuck in your current career and see what might be possible for you.
That is awesome. And we will drop that below for sure as well. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for what you're doing out there, because I think this is so important. So many people are frustrated. So many people think they cannot get out of it. And it just burns them out and it makes them unhealthy and unhappy. And it has, like you said, it reflects onto everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? We are radiating that energy, that bad energy, to everybody around us. And just everybody, I really encourage you. You are such a great coach, and you are so good, I think, in guiding people through these processes. And even if you just want some inspiration on what is possible, check out the Your Big Career Move podcast, because there are some really fun stories on there of people who've taken that leap.
Yeah. Well, not least yours.
Yes, I'm also on it. We'll link to that episode. My story, if you want my whole story, is also on there. But there's also some other really, really cool people. There's a guy from Formula One who was in the Formula One in the UK and switched jobs. There's somebody who worked at Dyson I saw the other day who switched.
Yeah.
Like there's some really, really, I think it's inspiring to see where people came from and where people have been going.
Yeah, and some really good ones in the pipeline as well. So
Yeah, that is so
if anybody's listening and they have a really cool career change story, get in touch. I'm always looking for more people to interview. So
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you have changed careers and are willing to talk about it and share it with the world, go check out the podcast and get in contact with Yesim. Thank you so much, Yesim. It was an absolute pleasure having you.
thank you. And thank you for your kind words. It's very nice. Whenever I'm having a bad day, I'm going to call you.
Yes, absolutely do that. And everybody go check out her website, check out the book on Amazon. It is really, really good. It really guides you through. And if you want to take it a step further, of course, reach out to Yesim. She's always there for a conversation. And
Definitely.
everybody have a good night's sleep, and we'll talk to you soon.